Welcome. If you are new to our channel, I'm Christina and this is Kelly. We are moms and we love talking about fashion. We will show you lookbooks, tips and tricks, hauls, anything that has to do with fashion. So today's video, we're actually going to be discussing and giving you some tips on some easy ways to be able to look appropriately sexy for really any age, but for us particularly over 40. So
yes, we thought that this was a really good video to do because as we get older, we start to change our opinion on what is sexy. I feel like a lot of women our age, or a lot of women when they become moms, they get a little bit nervous about, being sexy. They think like, oh, I'm too old for sexy, or I'm a mom now, I can't be sexy. But that's definitely not true. It's just learning how to do it in maybe a little bit different way. I feel like when you're younger, you kind of tend to think that sexy means showing the most skin possible.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you realize like, no, it really isn't about that. It's, you want to leave some things to the imagination. It's not all about TNA being on display.
Exactly. And sometimes when we become new moms, we also feel like, well, gosh, what is the real reason about kind of putting in that extra effort for myself when all I'm going to be doing is, dealing with the kids all day long, going to play dates, or, going off to volunteer at the school. But these are really like ways that are pretty effortless and simple to be able to do it and make you feel good about yourself, because you have to remember your number one priority is taking good care of yourself, so that way you can also be there and be refreshed to take care of your family and your job or
absolutely
your friends.
That's right. So for our first tip, this one is about putting the focus on one particular body part, specifically whatever it is that makes you feel the most confident. So if you're someone who feels very confident about your chest area, you might want to go a little sexier by wearing a little bit deeper V on top. If you're someone who's very confident in your legs, you might want to go for a little bit of a shorter skirt or some nice shorts. And it's really about just picking that one element at a time and making that your focus versus, having everything being out there. So we've talked about this in other videos.
Right.
For me, when I'm dressing up for an event, a lot of times I'll go for a little bit looser fitted dress, sometimes even with long sleeves, a little bit more covered up here, but shorter, because I feel more confident in my legs than I do in my upper body. So that's how I feel sexy without feeling like I'm taking it to another place that I don't want to take it.
And you might be thinking, like, okay, well, how many opportunities am I going to have to be able to wear, I don't know, like let's say a skirt, if you're, a younger mom. A romper is a great alternative to that, because you can find a lot of rompers that are super casual, or ones that you can dress down to be able to make appropriate for those play dates, or when you are, going to the park with the kids or running errands and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So,
rompers are so sexy.
Love them.
But also classy. I think
I agree.
The whole thing I would say about looking sexy over 40 is keeping it classy.
Right.
Not taking it to that place where it's just boring. And also you don't want to embarrass your kids, especially if you have teens and stuff.
I do.
You don't want to compete with that. You're in a different age range, but you can still be really, beautiful and sexy and feel good.
Yeah. And so for me, I would say that if I was to wear something that was, had a higher, like a rounded neck up here, I'm definitely going to feel a little bit heavier on top. So I do like to have V-necks. Now, one of the things, because I'm a little bit more blessed on top, is that sometimes it can, be a little bit too low cut. And one of the great tips that I like to actually use is just using a little bit of fashion tape and securing the shirt, right in place to make sure that there isn't any sort of oopsie mistakes going on. So that way I still get the look of having a nice, collarbone showing or whatever, without having, things look completely inappropriate.
And getting us tons of views. Those unexpected subscribers.
Surprise! So for tip number 2 are wearing off the shoulder shirts or even like sweaters. Definitely when we were coming up with this list, this was hands down our very first tip that we had come up with. Both Kelly and I really love off the shoulders. So even though we definitely have different body shapes up on top, we both find that, you know, with a good secure undergarment that you're able to really pull off and you know, one off the shoulder. I know that sometimes, you know, some women, they like to wear them completely, you know, both of them off the shoulder across them.
Too.
Yes, and for me, unfortunately, that's not going to work, but for sure, definitely the off the shoulder. I feel like it just gives a little bit more of a, you know, sexy feel, a vibe. Definitely much more feminine. It shows, you know, like different parts of like your skin without being overtly sexual. So.
Yes, yeah, I think that the shoulders are one of those body parts that, you know, are not the in-your-face sexy, but it's actually a very feminine part that I think is a bit sexy, a bit, you know, underutilized.
Right.
And we both have worn this same, you know, t-shirt before and really liked the fact that this is just a t-shirt. You know, you put it on this way and it's your average t-shirt, but it's meant
boom!
And then suddenly I'm getting more smiles at the supermarket.
Suddenly those melons are on sale.
But it's just a way to feel a little bit more fun, you know, a little bit, but without being so much, you know, it's very, very subtle. You know, I can throw this on with jeans and flat sandals and a mom tote bag, and I'm still completely appropriate for, you know, after school things with my kids. I don't think anybody's like pointing and saying, look at this one over here, you know, so it's just a fun, easy way. And then if you know, want a little bit more for like a date night or even for daytime, you know, a lot of people like the both off the shoulder. I for sure have done that one as well. So it's just one of those body parts that, you know, you don't always think of as sexy. It's not the typical TNA sexy,
right?
But it's pretty. It's
and you'll have a lot of choices. So whether you're using it like in a dress or in a t-shirt or even like a slouchy like sweatshirt that's off the shoulder. I mean, there's so rompers. Some of them have them off the shoulders. There's so many different combinations. So you just have to kind of really fool with the particular material on what situation would be the most appropriate for you. So if you tend to have more of a very casual lifestyle, then a more a t-shirty cotton material would be best for you. And then obviously if you are, you know, a working mom, you know, who is out, you know, in the business world and that's how, you know, your lifestyle is, then obviously the material, the fabric is going to be different in order to incorporate with that.
So for our next tip, this is kind of my specialty since I'm the one that gets very pasty looking sometimes, but bronzing and shimmering. Bronze and shimmer definitely makes me feel a little bit sexier, especially when I'm showing some skin on off the shoulder or if I'm wearing, you know, a dress or some shorts. So first I usually start with a self-tanner, which I've recently found one that I absolutely love, that I'm going to link below. I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but I will link it and insert a picture for you guys. Picked it up at Ulta. It's great. The night before I have, you know, something going on, or even just consistently in spring and summer, I'll do some bronzing and then a little bit of like a bronze or shimmer lotion on the skin. You know, even just a quick way to do it is, you know, the top of the shoulders and a little bit down the shins, just to give your skin that kind of bronzy, summery, spring, you know, look to it so that you don't feel pasty. It can just make you feel a little bit sexier. And even if you have a little bit deeper skin tone, the little bit of shimmer, you know, it doesn't have to have the tanner in it, just a little bit of like highlighting on the tops of the shoulders. Some people like to do it right here, the décolletage. I'm not great with that word, but you know what I'm talking about. So, you know, it's great. You can even use your highlighter that you use under here, you know, in your face and stuff. You can use a little bit here, a little bit here, and it just kind of like illuminates the skin, looks a little bit sexy, gives that little glow.
Yeah, and you know, when I was actually younger, you know, so I weighed considerably less than I do now. When I would wear, you know, like a little bit lower V-cut tops, one of the tricks that I used to use since I was smaller, I was trying to give a little bit of depth to that area. So a little bit of bronzing in that area is another trick. But the main idea about this is really kind of like blurring any sort of flaws as well as accentuating, you know, some of the areas. So even just, you know, using like a little bit of like makeup to make sure that you're covering up any sort of like little imperfections, that's really like the main idea about this tip. So.
Absolutely. And of course, my favorite expression, if you can't tone it, tan it.
Tan it. All the way. So one of the main things that I missed when I became a stay-at-home mom is our next tip, and that is wearing heels. You know, when I was working out in the workplace, I was always constantly wearing heels, and the trick that I found at being a stay-at-home mom is now using either like a lot of block heels or a lot of wedges. They really help to tone your legs, especially if you're using like a nude color. It really helps to just lengthen, you know, your legs and make your calves look so pretty. And of course, you know, when you're wearing heels or wedges, you are going to walk more confidently, you're going to have your shoulders back, your frame is going to just look so much nicer. So that is one of the things that definitely for me, if I want to look a little bit prettier, I can wear maybe a floral dress. I could always put sandals with it, but if I put a little wedge with it, I immediately feel a little bit sexier.
Absolutely. You know, when you want to amp it up a little bit, it's not something we use all the time, but I definitely notice a difference when I do it. I just feel a little bit more sexy. You know, and recently I actually picked up some beautiful espadrille wedges from Old Navy, and they're the ones that, you know, tie up the ankle and they have like the little bow, and I put them on, and my husband was complimenting how much he loved these shoes, and he's like, that's so sexy. And I thought, oh, I never thought of it that way, because it's just a wedge, you know, with a tie, but I think that the ankles are a sexy part of the body that are not often, you know, a focus. And when you have that little like tie up, there's just something probably a little bit lingerie-like about like tying up the ankle or whatever. So it's this little element of sexiness. Of course, later my daughter asked if she could borrow those. I was like, hell no, you're not wearing those. For those of you who are not 13, they are really cute and they're super comfy.
Oh my God, that is so bad.
Hell no. Nope, you will not be borrowing these shoes. But they're really cute, they're really comfortable, so I feel like a wedge, a nude heel, you know, and just that whole element of, you know, tying up the ankle adds a little bit something sexy in an unexpected way.
Did you throw your like white kids at her?
Yeah, I was like, these are for you. Till you're 21, you can wear those sneakers.
Oh, it's too funny. And for our next tip, it's all about makeup. So one of the things you can do is you can add like a smoky eye if you really enjoy being able to play up your features of your eyes, and that's something that you're really good at. Or if for myself, I really like to give like a nice bold lip. I feel like that's also, you know, the trick that I tend to use and downplay my eyes a little bit more. So I feel like, you know, kind of using your makeup in ways to be able to accentuate your best features is another way to just easily be able to make yourself look a little bit like sexier.
Absolutely. Kind of like the clothes, you know how we said pick that one element? I feel like the same is true with the makeup, you know? So I don't do a smoky eye that often, but one of the tips I would say that I found to be really helpful, and everybody's different because of skin tone and hair color, but now that I'm older, I don't feel very comfortable with the black lined smoky eye or the black or the charcoal. For me, it looks very harsh and I feel like it ages me a bit, but I can do it with browns.
Yeah.
So you can even do a brown smoky eye, maybe like a lavender smoky eye. And for me, the way I kind of smoke it a little bit more is to line the inner rim and the outer rim, and then, you know, kind of shade it with some shadow underneath, and just kind of a little bit darker, you know, more intense eye than I usually would. And then when I'm doing that, I'm gonna do a much more like nude, subdued lip. Or, you know, you have the simple eye with the nice bright bold lip. But yeah, I feel like finding that one element on the face and kind of making that the focus, when you put them all together, I feel like that can be really aging and harsh.
I agree. And you know, I have to agree also, even though I do have like a darker skin tone than Kelly does, I used to wear black, you know, like eyeliner religiously when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I definitely grab for like a medium brown, you know, that really is like, sorry, someone's calling me.
Hold on.
we're back. Sorry about that.
Mom life.
I know, robocalls from school constantly. But anyway, so yeah, so I very rarely ever grab for blacks. I'm always using now more of like a medium brown. I do feel like it has something to do with just maybe it's the texture of my skin.
I think so too. Because I used to do the really dark, like black rimmed eye with the black smoky shadow.
Oh, yeah.
And like in my 20s, that was awesome. I love that look.
Yes.
Now I put that on, I'm like, ooh, who is that old lady looking back at me?
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be a good one.
For me, it looks like, maybe I had gone out like the night before and got drunk and then just forgot to wash out my makeup,
Always a good one. So for this next one, it's all about the hair. So of course, wearing your hair up can be very sexy because it shows shoulders and neckline. But what we were thinking of when we thought of sexy was kind of that bedhead look. So we both like to add like a little bit of messy waves and curls in there when we want to kind of like amp up the sexiness. And for me, it kind of reminds me of like Marilyn Monroe, kind of like, messy bedhead wave, loose waves, not like a tight curl, but just that, loose wave, like, you didn't really try, you just kind of woke up like that.
Right, it just adds a little bit of volume and texture and body to your hair,
Yes.
And I also feel like you can very easily get caught in the trap of just doing like that simple ponytail when you are pulling your hair up and trying to go for that, like, remember when that like messy ponytail was in and then we all just started doing like a bun kind of look?
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely am loving, like some simple curls and waves around the hair. I think it's also very flattering to a lot of people's different like faces of their, shaped faces, sorry.
Absolutely, and it's just something different, when you're used to having your hair just straight all the time, it's a little bit more just an everyday look, and when you put a little wave in it, it suddenly just kind of like gives you a little something different, kind of makes you a little bit sexier.
Yeah, and the other thing I like is that it lasts the next day as well.
And it's better on dirty hair. I don't know if that's true for you, but the dirtier, the better. A little dry shampoo to get that texture and, add some of those waves.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you've seen me have a bad hair day, it's because I took a shower. So my hair was not working with us that day,
So
but
true.
if my hair is looking amazing, it's like, it's like 3 days old.
That's right.
Just put a little extra dry shampoo in there, good to go.
Absolutely.
And so for our last tip, it is playing up those little feminine details. So whether you are using like some lace or having like a little bit of ruffle detailing on like a dress or having a little bit of like pearls or something. This is actually one of the tips that we had used for our, how to spring up your wardrobe. So they really do go hand in hand. But it's just, I don't know, like just another like thing, I think a detail that you just don't tend to think about, but really makes me feel like very sexy. Like this, is a little kimono and it's sheer, and so it has like a little bit of that like cross stitching, detailing, right, exactly.
And also your silk cami, I feel like you could easily have put a t-shirt on, but something about that element of the silkiness of a camisole is a little bit sexy because it's kind of like a lingerie vibe, and I remember reading somewhere an interview with an actor or something, and they were asking him, what he found sexy on a woman, and I don't know why it stuck with me, but he really loved sundresses, and I thought it's funny because a sundress, you don't typically think of in that way. People tend to think like the tight bodycon dresses and stuff, but I think that sundresses can be really sexy because they're super feminine and they're flowy and they just give this very soft vibe to them. So I think playing up your femininity is always going to be sexy in a very subtle and classy kind of way. So just think about, the fabrics that you're going for, the lace detailing, the silk camisole, even a silk blouse, with a little nice V-neck can be sexier than a cotton blouse or a cotton t-shirt. It's just those little elements, those little details. So I hope that this was helpful for everybody, different ways that maybe you hadn't thought of about being sexy. Sexy people think of the obvious. But the obvious is actually not what you want to do because obvious can be too overtly sexual and that can go in a whole different direction that I think honestly these tips I personally think are great even for young people. Even though I know that, you know, we'll probably be fighting against those teenagers and trying to convince them that a sundress is sexy as a crop top. But I'm always trying to instill that in my daughters, that, you know, you don't have to show everything to be attractive. You know, attractive is just those little simple elements. You can look classy and still be, you know, sexy and attractive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that these are also tips that are quite forgiving, because I will tell you, I do not have the same figure that I had, you know, like 20 years ago.
I totally kept my figure. I look exactly the same. Yeah, I agree. Like, these are just tips that I think lots of women can use, lots of different body types. You know, you don't have to be 100 pounds to wear a little off the shoulder tee. It's very forgiving.
It is.
You know, so yeah, these are tips that kind of work across the board for different body types. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this.
Yay!
If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. You know, let us know what kinds of videos you would like to see, or what kinds of things that you think are sexy. If you have any other tips that maybe we overlooked, we'd love to hear what you guys have to share. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to do that.
Exactly. And if you are looking for some more like fashion ideas and outfits, don't forget to follow us at Mommies Makeup Moscato on Facebook, as well as also on Instagram. And we come out with new videos every Monday night at 10 p.m. religiously.
Yes, so join us next week.
All right.
Bye.